there, true crime addicts. It's me, James Renner, with a special episode of True Crime this week. I may have a lead in the Missy Bevers case. It's interesting enough that I wanted to share it with you in the hopes that it might kick up some new information. It might ultimately prove to be nothing, but I find it personally to be very compelling. Now, Missy Bevers is a pretty popular case in the true crime community, but for those who are unfamiliar with the case, I'm going to summarize it real quick. In the early morning hours of Monday, April 18, 2016, the body of 45-year-old Missy Bevers was found inside Creekside Church of Christ in Midlothian, Texas, which is about 25 miles southwest of Dallas. Missy was a fitness instructor and had a 5 a.m. class at the church on Monday mornings. Usually they held class outside, but the weather was expected to be bad, so she told her students that it would take place inside the church that day. Surveillance footage showed Missy entering the church at 4:18 a.m. One of Missy's students arrived at 5 a.m. and discovered her body inside. Missy had been murdered. The cause of death, several puncture wounds to her head and chest. When detectives reviewed the rest of the surveillance footage, they discovered something very strange. Around 4 a.m., just before Missy arrived, a stranger was seen walking up and down the church hallways, smashing glass and attempting to open doors. This person wore what appeared to be a SWAT uniform and tactical gear, a police vest, a black helmet, and gloves. This person is assumed to be Missy's killer. Now, I'm going to show you some of the footage from the surveillance cameras that day. Here it is. Take a look. As you can see, here's the person in the uniform. It's kind of, people have pointed out that the gait that this person uses while walking, their way of walking is a little strange, and not entirely masculine. So they're opening doors. Obviously, they are unfamiliar with this area. Not really sure what the purpose is of them breaking in. Were they waiting for Missy to get there, or what was going on here? But apparently when they encountered Missy, it led to her murder. Which brings me to the lead I received on September 15th this year. It was sent by a woman named Ruth Bartlett, who's a researcher from England. Here's what she wrote. Quote, I came across the case of a woman who lived in the U.S. for decades before moving to the U.K., and committing a murder that was so senseless and with such a specific M.O. that I am convinced she must be responsible for other crimes. Her name is Yvonne Caylor. She's a welder by trade and has a bad back and a limp. Don't you think the helmet worn by Missy's killer looks like a welding helmet? Okay, so who is Yvonne Caylor? I went to Google and discovered that 64-year-old Yvonne Caylor is sitting in prison in the UK for murdering her sister, Nikki Cullingborn, on May 23, 2016. The details of the crime are bizarre. Yvonne had been living at her sister Nikki's place for a while, but things did not go well, and in October 2015, Nikki had her evicted from her flat. Nikki evicted Yvonne. Yvonne was then caught breaking into her sister's flat and was charged with burglaring. Nikki was due to testify in court against Yvonne when she was murdered. On the day of the murder, Yvonne bought a costume at a local shop and disguised herself as a man. She wore a wig, a false beard, and a workman's jacket. Then she walked inside her sister's apartment building and knocked on Nikki's door. When Nikki answered the door, she recognized Yvonne through the disguise and tried to shut it closed, but Yvonne then forced her way inside. Once inside, a struggle ensued. Yvonne picked up the closest thing she could find, a ceramic chicken, and beat her sister on the head with it. She then suffocated Nikki to death and staged the scene to look like a suicide. But police quickly found surveillance footage that showed Yvonne in disguise approaching Nikki's door. Now let me play you that footage. Now here's Yvonne coming into the apartment building, again dressed in a disguise, trying to make herself look like a man. I don't know that I would have picked the ginger hair, but it's eerily similar to the footage from Missy Bevers' case, right? In the same MO. Now, following Nikki's murder, Yvonne attempted to drive to Spain, where she planned to then fly into the United States, where she had lived before moving into Nikki's flat. Yvonne's connection to the U.S. is where this lead gets super interesting. Yvonne worked as a welder in the States until she hurt her back. She had lived in several states and was married to several different men, which makes it very hard to track down any court cases or criminal record here in the States. But we know she has spent time in Ohio, Mississippi, Florida, South Carolina, Alabama, and Texas. Yvonne divorced one of her husbands in Navarro, Texas in 2002. Navarro is less than an hour's drive from Midlothian, where Missy Bevers was murdered by someone, possibly a woman, wearing a disguise just a month before Nikki's murder in the UK. I managed to contact Nikki's niece, Jody. I sent her a link to the surveillance footage from the Missy Bevers case. She wrote back, quote, "I think this is Yvonne." So far, there's no definitive proof linking Yvonne to Midlothian, Texas in April of 2016. And police in Midlothian say they do not believe Yvonne was in the United States at the time of Missy's murder. But that's far from definitive, and so I wanted to share this with you. If you have any information that puts Yvonne Caylor in the United States in April 2016, please contact the Midlothian Police Department at 972-775-3333.